Journey Beyond the Sun, a sleep story of magic and mystery. Hello, and welcome. Tonight, we're going on a journey together, a journey to a place that exists beyond maps, beyond the edges of the known world, a place where the sun sets in colors you've never seen, where castles rest on clouds, and where magic still whispers through ancient forests. So settle in now. Make yourself comfortable. Let your body sink deeper into wherever you're resting. There's nowhere you need to be, nothing you need to do. Just listen and let yourself drift. Our story begins in a small village, nestled at the foot of mountains so tall their peaks disappeared into mist. This was a place where winter arrived early and stayed late, where snow fell in soft silence, and where the northern lights danced across the sky like ribbons of green and violet fire. In this village lived a young woman named Astrid. She was the youngest of 12 children, born on the longest night of the year, when the aurora borealis blazed so brightly it turned the snow beneath it emerald and gold. Her mother always said she was born under a special sky, that she carried a piece of that light within her. Astrid spent her days helping her family, mending clothes, tending the garden in the brief summers, gathering firewood from the edge of the dark forest. Her hands were never idle, but her mind often wandered. She would gaze at the mountains in the distance, at the mysterious forests that stretched beyond them, and wonder what lay in those hidden places. The old ones in the village told stories of enchanted castles that appeared only under certain moons, of valleys where time moved differently, of creatures who were neither wholly human nor wholly something else. One particular winter, when Astrid had just turned 20, her family fell upon difficult times. The harvest had been poor. The cold came earlier than expected. Her father grew ill, and there was barely enough food to sustain them all. Astrid watched her younger siblings grow thin, saw worry etch deeper lines into her mother's face. It was during this time that something extraordinary happened. On the night of the winter solstice, Astrid stood outside their cottage, unable to sleep. The cold bit at her cheeks, but she didn't mind. The sky above was performing its ancient dance, curtains of light flowing and rippling, shifting from green to purple to the palest blue. She watched, mesmerized, as she always was. And then, in the midst of that celestial display, she saw something else, a shape moving through the aurora itself. It looked like a great white bear, enormous and majestic, walking across the sky as though the lights were solid ground beneath its paws. Astrid blinked, certain she must be imagining it. But no, there it was, descending from the heavens, growing larger and more solid as it approached. The bear landed in the snow before her cottage without a sound. Its fur was pure white, so white it seemed to glow with its own inner light. Its eyes were dark and impossibly intelligent. When it looked at Astrid, she felt as though it could see straight through to her soul. "Do not be afraid," the bear said, and its voice was deep and gentle, like distant thunder on a summer evening. "I have come with an offer for your family." Astrid found, to her surprise, that she was not afraid. Perhaps it was the magic of the solstice night. Perhaps it was something in the bear's eyes. Or perhaps she had always been waiting for something extraordinary to find her. "What kind of offer?" she asked softly. The bear settled onto its haunches, and snowflakes began to fall around them, drifting down like tiny stars. "I know your family suffers," it said. "I can change that. If you come with me to my castle beyond the mountains, I will ensure your family wants for nothing." They will have food, warmth, and comfort through all the winters to come. Your father will grow strong again. Your siblings will thrive. And what would you want from me in return? Astrid asked. Only your company, the bear replied. I am alone in my castle. I would have you stay with me, speak with me, keep me from the solitude that has been my only companion for far too long. Astrid considered this. The night was still and quiet around them, as if the whole world was holding its breath, waiting for her answer. She thought of her family huddled inside the small cottage, of her father's labored breathing, of her mother's worry. She thought of the mountains she had always wondered about, of the mysterious lands beyond. I will come, she said. The bear nodded slowly, then climb onto my back and hold tight. Astrid did as instructed, her fingers gripping the thick, soft fur. The bear was warm beneath her, warmer than seemed natural. It rose to its full height, and suddenly they were moving, not running across the snow, but rising up into the air itself. The ground fell away beneath them. The cottage grew small. The village became a scattering of lights. They traveled through the aurora borealis, through those rivers of light that danced across the northern sky. Astrid felt the energy of it humming around her, felt it singing through her bones. Colors she had no names for flowed past them. She could smell something like electricity and winter roses, could taste the sharp sweetness of magic on her tongue. They flew over the mountains, those peaks that had always marked the edge of her world. She saw valleys below filled with mist, forests so dense and dark they looked like shadows given solid form. Rivers wound through the landscape like silver threads. Lakes reflected the moon and stars until it was impossible to tell where earth ended and sky began. Time seemed to move strangely during that journey. It might have been minutes or hours or something in between. Astrid felt herself drifting, lulled by the steady movement, by the warmth of the bear's fur, by the impossible beauty surrounding her. Finally, they began to descend. The castle appeared gradually, as though it was forming itself out of mist and moonlight. It stood on a plateau high in the mountains, surrounded by forests of snow-covered pines. The castle itself was like something from a dream. Tall spires reaching toward the stars, walls of pale stone that seemed to shimmer and shift in the light, towers connected by delicate bridges that looked too fragile to support any weight yet held firm. The bear landed gently in a courtyard where snow lay pristine and undisturbed. Gardens slumbered beneath the white blanket, their summer shapes only hinted at. A fountain stood at the center, its water somehow still flowing despite the cold, creating soft, musical sounds as it splashed and trickled. "Welcome," the bear said, "to the castle that lies beyond the sun and west of the moon. This will be your home now." Astrid slid from the bear's back, her feet sinking into the soft snow. She turned slowly, taking it all in. The castle was enormous, yet it didn't feel cold or imposing. Light glowed warmly from windows. Somewhere, she could hear music, faint and distant, like someone playing a harp in a faraway room. The bear led her inside through great doors that opened on silent hinges. The entrance hall took her breath away. The floor was made of white marble veined with gold. Pillars rose to support a ceiling painted with stars and constellations. Not just any stars, but stars that seemed to actually twinkle and move. Tapestries hung on the walls depicting scenes she didn't recognize. Strange forests, impossible creatures, people in clothes from eras she couldn't name. "You must be tired from the journey," the bear said. "Let me show you to your room. Tomorrow, We can speak more. Tomorrow, I will explain everything." He led her up a curving staircase, down a corridor lined with portraits whose eyes seemed to follow their movement. Finally, he stopped before a door carved with intricate patterns, flowers and vines and birds with long, sweeping tail feathers. "This is your chamber," he said. "Everything you need is inside. If you require anything else, simply speak your wish aloud, and it shall appear." The door opened, and Astrid stepped into what could only be described as a perfect room. A fire burned cheerfully in an enormous hearth. The bed was piled high with quilts and pillows that looked impossibly soft. A window seat overlooked the mountains and forests beyond. Books lined shelves along one wall. A table held a steaming pot of tea and fresh bread with butter and honey. "Rest well," the bear said softly. "I will see you in the morning." He left, and Astrid heard his heavy footsteps padding away down the corridor. She stood alone in the beautiful room, still trying to make sense of everything that had happened. Part of her wondered if she was dreaming. But the warmth of the fire was real. The smell of the tea was real. The softness of the carpet beneath her feet was real. She went to the window and looked out. The aurora borealis was still dancing across the sky, though softer now, more distant. The forests below were dark and mysterious. The world seemed very far away. Astrid ate the bread and honey, drank the warm tea, and felt her exhaustion finally catch up with her. She changed into a nightgown she found waiting in the wardrobe. It fit perfectly, as though made just for her, and climbed into the enormous bed. The quilts enveloped her like clouds. The pillows cradled her head. The fire crackled softly. Within moments, she was asleep. She dreamed of walking through the castle's corridors. In her dream, they went on forever, twisting and turning, revealing new rooms with each door she opened. She saw a library with more books than could exist in the world. She saw a conservatory filled with flowers blooming despite the winter outside. She saw a music room where instruments played themselves, creating harmonies that made her heart ache with their beauty. And in her dream, she saw a figure, not the white bear, but a man. He stood with his back to her, looking out a window at the stars. She couldn't see his face, but she could sense his loneliness. It radiated from him like cold from ice. He was reaching toward something, yearning for something he couldn't quite grasp. She tried to move toward him, to speak to him, but the dream shifted and changed. The corridors became a forest. The forest became a river. The river became stars. And then she was falling through darkness, soft and gentle, like drifting down through deep water. When Astrid woke, morning light was streaming through her window. Or perhaps it was afternoon. She had no way of knowing how long she'd slept. The fire had been tended while she slumbered. Fresh clothes waited for her, laid out carefully on a chair. A tray held breakfast, warm porridge with cream and berries, fresh bread, tea that smelled of herbs and honey. She ate slowly, savoring each bite. Everything tasted perfect, better than any food she'd ever eaten. The porridge was exactly the right temperature. The bread was still warm from the oven. The tea soothed her in ways she hadn't known she needed. When she finished, she dressed and ventured out of her room. The corridor looked different in daylight. The portraits she'd noticed last night were even more intriguing now. They depicted people from different eras, women in ancient gowns, men in strange armor, children with flowers in their hair. All of them had the same look in their eyes, a mixture of sadness and hope. She wandered through the castle, discovering new wonders with each turn. The library she'd dreamed about was real. Room after room of books, their spines in every color, their pages filled with stories and knowledge. The conservatory was real too, a great glass room where roses bloomed alongside lilies, where fruit hung heavy on trees that should not be able to grow in this climate. Birds sang from branches, their feathers bright against the greenery. Eventually, she found her way to a great hall. A long table stood at its center, set for two. The white bear was waiting there. "Good morning," he said. "I hope you slept well." "I did," Astrid replied, taking a seat across from him. "This castle is extraordinary. I've never seen anything like it." "It has been my home for a very long time," the bear said. There was something in his voice, a weariness, a weight. But it has been a lonely home. They ate together, and as they did, the bear began to tell her his story, or at least parts of it. "I was not always as you see me now," he explained. "Once I was a man, a prince in fact, but I was cursed by a troll queen, transformed into this form, bound to this castle. The curse can only be broken under certain conditions, by certain means. I have waited many years for those conditions to align." "What are the conditions?" Astrid asked softly. The bear shook his massive head. "That is the complicated part. Even I do not know all of them. The curse is layered, you see, woven with many threads. What I do know is that I must not be seen in my true form until the curse is fully broken. By night, I return to my human shape, but I must remain in darkness. If any light falls upon me before the curse ends, all will be lost." Astrid absorbed this information. "And how does my being here help break the curse?" "The curse requires companionship given freely," the bear said. "Kindness offered without obligation. Someone who can look past appearances, who can see beyond the obvious. Your presence here, your willingness to stay despite everything strange about this place, it begins to unravel the threads." "Then I will stay," Astrid said simply. "And I will help however I can." The bear's dark eyes reflected something that might have been hope. "Thank you," he said quietly. And so Astrid's days in the castle began to take on a rhythm. She would wake to find breakfast waiting. She would explore the endless rooms, discovering new wonders each day. She found a room full of crystals that sang when sunlight hit them. She found a chamber where winter existed on one side and summer on the other, divided by an invisible line she could step across at will. She found a tower where the stars seemed close enough to touch. The bear was always nearby, though not intrusive. He would join her for meals, and they would talk. He was gentle and thoughtful, well-read and curious about everything. He asked about her life, her family, her dreams. She told him about her village, about the northern lights she'd watched since childhood, about the stories her grandmother used to tell. In turn, he told her about the world as it used to be, about the magic that once flowed more freely, about the old ways that were fading. He told her about the seasons he'd watched pass from his castle, about the forests he'd walked through in his bear form, about the stars he'd studied from his towers. At night, things were different. At night, the bear would leave her after dinner, retreating to his chambers. But Astrid would hear sounds, footsteps that were human, not animal. Music played on instruments by human hands. Sometimes she would hear singing, a male voice rich and haunting, carrying through the corridors. She was curious, desperately curious, but she remembered what the bear had told her. He must not be seen in his true form until the curse was broken. So she resisted the urge to seek him out, to peek through doorways, to follow those sounds. The weeks passed, and Astrid found herself growing comfortable in the castle. More than comfortable, she was happy. The bear was kind and interesting. The castle was full of marvels. She didn't miss her old life as much as she thought she would, though she did think of her family often. One day, she mentioned this to the bear. "I wonder how my family is doing," she said. "If they're well, if they have what they need." "Would you like to see them?" the bear asked. Astrid looked at him in surprise. "Could I?" "Yes," he said, "but there are conditions. You may return to visit them, but you must come back here within 7 days, and you must not tell them the full truth of this place or of me. Some secrets must remain secret until the proper time." "I understand," Astrid said, though she wasn't entirely sure she did. "And if I don't return within 7 days?" The bear's expression grew grave. "Then the curse cannot be broken. Everything we've built here, all the progress we've made, it will be undone, and I will be trapped in this form forever." "Then I will return," Astrid promised. "I give you my word." The bear nodded. "Then tomorrow night, when the moon is full, I will take you home. But Astrid," he paused, "be careful. The world outside can be more dangerous than you remember, and there are forces at work that do not wish to see the curse broken." That night, Astrid lay in her bed, watching the firelight dance on the ceiling. She thought about the bear, about his loneliness, about the curse that bound him. She thought about the man she'd glimpsed in her dreams, for she had dreamed of him many times since that first night. Always with his back turned, always reaching for something just out of grasp. She felt something shifting inside her, an understanding that was just beginning to form, a feeling that was growing stronger each day, though she didn't yet have a name for it. The next night, under the full moon, the bear took her back to her village. They traveled through the aurora again, through those rivers of light, and she held tight to his warm fur. When they landed outside her family's cottage, she saw immediately that things had changed. The cottage had been repaired and expanded. Smoke rose cheerfully from the chimney. Through the windows, she could see warm light and movement. "Remember," the bear said softly, 7 days, no more." "I'll remember," Astrid promised. She slid from his back and watched as he rose into the air once more, disappearing into the lights above. Her family's joy at seeing her was overwhelming. They embraced her, pulled her inside, bombarded her with questions. The cottage was warm and comfortable. Food was plentiful. Her father looked strong and healthy. Her siblings had grown and thrived. "Where have you been?" her mother asked. "What happened to you?" Astrid told them as much as she could, that she was living in a castle in the mountains, that she was cared for well, that she was happy. But she couldn't tell them about the bear, about the curse, about the magic that permeated every stone of that distant place. Her family was relieved and happy, but also curious. Her sisters, especially, pressed her for details. "Is there a lord who keeps you?" one asked. "Is he handsome? Is he rich?" "He's kind," Astrid said, which was true, "and he treats me well." The days passed quickly. Her family wanted to keep her close, to make up for lost time. They threw a small celebration in her honor. Neighbors came to see her, to hear about her mysterious new life. Everyone seemed happy for her good fortune, though some looked at her with a mixture of envy and suspicion. On the 6th day, her eldest sister pulled her aside. Astrid, are you truly happy there? In that castle? With this mysterious keeper of yours? I am, Astrid said, and realized as she said it that it was completely true. Happier than I've been in a long time. Her sister frowned. But surely there's something wrong. Some price you're paying. Nothing comes without a cost. There's no terrible price, Astrid assured her. Just companionship. He's lonely, that's all, and I help ease that loneliness. But her sister's words stayed with her. That night, as she lay in her childhood bed, so much smaller and less comfortable than the one in the castle, she thought about the bear, about the curse, about the man she heard but never saw. What would he look like, she wondered? The man behind the bear? Was he young or old? Would his eyes be kind, like the bear's eyes? Would his voice match the singing she heard echoing through the corridors at night? She realized, lying there in the darkness, that she wanted to know. More than that, she needed to know. The curiosity was becoming unbearable. On the 7th day, her mother tried to convince her to stay longer. Just a few more days, she pleaded. We've barely had any time with you. Astrid felt torn. She loved her family, and she could see how much they'd missed her. But she'd made a promise, and more than that, she found herself eager to return. The castle had become home. The bear had become something she didn't quite have words for yet. I must go back, she said firmly. I promised, and promises matter. That night, under the stars, the white bear came for her. Her family watched in awe as he descended from the sky. They finally understood why she'd been unable to explain everything. Take care of her, her father said to the bear. And there was no fear in his voice, only trust. I will, the bear promised. She is precious to me. They flew back through the aurora, back through the rivers of light. Astrid felt relief flooding through her as the castle came into view, its towers reaching toward the stars. She was home. The bear seemed different when they landed, more relaxed, as though he'd been holding his breath for 7 days and could finally exhale. Thank you for keeping your word, he said softly. Thank you for coming back. Of course I came back, Astrid said. This is where I belong now. That night, after dinner, the bear left her as usual, but Astrid couldn't settle. The conversation with her sister kept echoing in her mind. The curiosity that had been building for weeks was now a burning need. What if she just looked? Just a quick glimpse? Surely that couldn't hurt. Surely one small moment of seeing him wouldn't break the curse. She waited until the castle was completely silent. Then, moving as quietly as she could, she crept through the corridors. She'd learned the castle's layout well enough by now. She knew which way the bears, the prince's, chambers lay. The door was not locked. It opened silently under her hand. The room beyond was dark, lit only by the faintest glow from a dying fire. She could make out the shape of a bed, and on it, a figure. Astrid held a candle she'd brought with her. Her hand trembled. She knew she shouldn't do this. She knew it was wrong. But the need to see, to know, was overwhelming. She raised the candle. The light fell across his face, and Astrid's breath caught in her throat. He was beautiful, far more beautiful than she'd imagined. Young, with features that were both strong and gentle. Dark hair fell across his forehead. His expression in sleep was peaceful, vulnerable. For one perfect moment, she simply looked at him, memorizing every detail. and then a drop of hot wax fell from the candle onto his bare shoulder. His eyes opened. They were dark and full of pain and horror. "No," he whispered. "No. What have you done?" The candle fell from Astrid's nerveless fingers, extinguishing as it hit the floor. But it was too late. The damage was done. The prince sat up, and in the darkness, she could hear the agony in his voice. "The curse. You've triggered the final clause. I tried to warn you. I tried to tell you. Now I must go to her, to the troll queen. I must marry her, and the curse will be complete. There is no breaking it now." "No!" Astrid cried out. "Please, I'm sorry. I didn't understand. Let me fix this." But even as she spoke, she felt a great wind rising. The castle itself seemed to shudder. The prince was changing, shifting, being pulled away by forces beyond any mortal's control. "The castle east of the sun and west of the moon," he gasped out. "That's where she'll take me, but it's impossible to reach. No one can find it. You cannot save me, Astrid. The only thing left is for you to forget me and live your life." "Never," Astrid said fiercely. "I'll find you. I'll break this curse myself if I have to." The wind grew stronger, howling through the corridors. The prince's form was fading, becoming transparent. "Astrid," he said, and there was such longing in his voice. "I wanted to tell you. I wanted you to know. I love you. I have loved you since the first moment you agreed to come with me. That was my salvation, and now my damnation." And then he was gone. The castle around Astrid began to change. The warmth fled. The lights dimmed. The magic that had sustained the place was unraveling. She ran through the corridors, but everything was transforming. The beautiful rooms were becoming hollow and cold. The books in the library were turning to dust. The flowers in the conservatory were withering. She made it outside just as the entire structure began to collapse. The towers fell. The walls crumbled. Within minutes, there was nothing left but ruins. Old, ancient ruins that looked like they'd been standing empty for centuries. Astrid stood in the snow, watching the dawn break over the mountains. Her heart was breaking too, splintering into pieces. She had destroyed everything. Because of her curiosity, her inability to trust, she had lost him. But she had also heard his last words. He loved her. And she realized, standing there in the ruins of their castle, that she loved him too. She had been falling in love with him for weeks, with his kindness, his gentleness, his intelligence, his loneliness that matched her own, and she would not give up on him. "East of the sun and west of the moon," she whispered to the cold morning air. "Then that's where I'll go." She began to walk. The journey ahead would be long and difficult. The destination was said to be impossible to reach. But Astrid had made her choice. She would search the ends of the earth if necessary. She would face any challenge, overcome any obstacle. Because that's what you do when you love someone. You don't give up. You don't stop searching. You keep moving forward, even when the path is unclear, even when the destination seems impossible. The sun rose fully over the mountains, painting the snow gold and pink. Astrid walked toward it, her heart determined, her spirit unbroken. Somewhere beyond the sun, west of the moon, in a castle that existed at the edge of dreams, the man she loved was waiting. And she would find him. As you drift off to sleep tonight, imagine yourself on that journey with her, walking through enchanted forests where the trees whisper secrets, crossing rivers that flow with starlight, climbing mountains where the air itself shimmers with magic, each step taking you closer to that impossible place, each breath drawing you deeper into dreams. The story continues, but for now, rest. Let the images carry you into sleep. Tomorrow is another day, another part of the journey. But tonight, you can simply drift, soft and peaceful, into the quiet darkness. Sleep well. If you enjoyed tonight's story, please consider leaving a like and subscribing for more peaceful bedtime tales. Sweet dreams, and I'll see you in the next one.